Thank you for watching Section 5.3, Adding and Subtracting Fractions with Like Denominators. You'll see that today we're doing like denominators and tomorrow we're doing unlike denominators. The rules are semi-similar, but the rule for adding or subtracting numbers with like denominators is that you must have a common denominator. Okay? So fractions with the same denominator are called like fractions. All right, so today we are already going to have common denominators, so we're not going to have to worry about changing our denominator to fit the problem correctly. Once you have common denominators, then you simply add or subtract the numerator only. The denominator is going to stay the same. Okay, the size of the slice, the size of the piece will not change. So if you look down here at this illustration, I broke up my little rectangle or my fraction strip into 4 parts because I'm doing 1/4, and I colored in 1 of the fourths. And I added another fourth, 1/4, which equals 2/4. Now you'll also notice that when I use a fraction strip that I can visually see what portion is colored. Now if I look at this, if I colored 2 out of 4, that means I have half of them colored. And 2/4 can be reduced, and you would need to reduce it to 1/2. Okay, so not only are you adding or subtracting your fractions, we're also using what we have done prior to this, which is simplifying fractions. Okay, so for our first fraction here, I have 3/5 plus 1/5. Since we already have like fractions, we are just going to add the numerator. 3 plus 1 is 4. And the denominator stays the same. It does not make sense to change the denominator to 10. Okay, back here I did 1/4 plus 1/4, and I had 2/4 total. Okay, it would not make sense to put 2/8. I can't do an illustration of 2/8 unless I'm breaking things down further, and I don't want to do that. Okay, so the denominator stays the same for that reason. We're not changing the size of the pieces that we are adding together. 3/8 minus 1/8. So I'm going to subtract my numerator. 3 minus 1 is 2. And my 8, once again, it wouldn't make sense to take 8 minus 8, and then I would get 0. Okay, so that does not make sense to do that. Once again, I'm not changing the size of my pieces, so the denominator stays the same. And then I'm going to reduce this fraction. I have a 2 and an 8. These are both even numbers, so I know 2 can divide into them both. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And you get 1/4. Okay? Always make sure that when you look at your fraction, there's nothing that can divide into both the numerator and denominator. Also remember that you have to be dividing the same number into both the numerator and denominator. I can't divide 1 by 2 and 1 by 4. That wouldn't make sense. Okay, then I have 4/7 plus 6/7. So I'm going to add my numerators. 4 plus 6 is 10. And my denominator stays the same. It's going to be 7ths still. Now you'll notice that in this fraction, my numerator is larger than the denominator, and we call that an improper fraction. So when it's improper, I need to see how many times 7 can go into 10. So 7 goes into 10 one whole time. When I subtract, pen's acting up again, I get 3. Okay, that is my remainder. So I have 1 remainder 3. The 1 is the whole number. That's how many whole times it can go into 10. The 3 is my numerator. That's what I have left over. And the 7 represents, once again, the parts, which are 7ths. So 1 and 3/7 is my answer. And we have our last one here. So I'm going to add the numerators again. 3 plus 3 is 6. Then I have my 4s. It stays the same. It's going to stay in fourths. And once again, I have an improper fraction. So I'm going to see how many times 4 can go into 6 evenly. And that is 1. Subtract my 4. And I get 2. So I have 1 remainder 2. So once again, my 1 is the whole number. My remainder is the numerator, and my denominator stays the same. It's going to stay in fourths. Now, in this particular fraction, I have 2 fourths, 1 and 2 fourths. And we know, because we've done this prior, that 2 fourths can be simplified. So I'm going to divide here by 2 once again. Okay, I'm going to put my 1 out front because we don't want to forget that. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and I get 1 1/2. Okay, remember these are going to be equivalent fractions. They represent the same thing, but one is in simplest form, meaning I can't reduce it any further. Okay? All right, as always, if you have any questions, make sure you ask tomorrow. Thanks for watching.